Hello viewers, Mezcal here. I'm making a soft light rig for video work, and I've already made a bit of, taken a bit of video footage about this subject and the gear that I'm going to use, but most of it was done on the phone, and you know, it was quite dark, poor lighting, a bit of babble where I was sort of just jibber-jabbering on about things that were kind of pointless. So anyway, I'm just going to rip into it, start fresh. I might add a bit of the snippets where I'm doing some solder work, making up these leads. So this lead, essentially, overkill plugs here. This thing is an XT60 used in RC, RC sort of planes and cars and toys and stuff like that. So we've got a 9 amp hour battery in this nice little carry bag. I've got 4 of these panels here. These are a 680 lumen panel. These are a Jaycar product. There's the box. They're quite expensive for what they are, but you know, for me, I'm buying them on staff discount, so it works out. I think they're about $30 for me. So, you know, 4 of these, it's quite an investment in lighting. But having said that, you know, I'm looking at, well, 4 of them altogether. 680 by 4, is it? You're over 612, 24. You're over 2400 lumens. It's going to be quite a beast. The wattage is pretty low. Certainly, the amps is, I think, calculated something like 3.3 amps. So this is a 15 amp cable, well over spec'd for what it needs to be. So each one of these panels is going to have a switch on the bottom of it, and essentially you're just going to hang them on this piece of timber here, 4 in a row, and set them up with wing nut style, and basically have it so it's got a tripod thread in the centre there, so that it can be mounted in various ways and made quite usable. It might be a good idea to put one on the end or something so that I can have it vertical or horizontal. We'll get to that later. So I just went down the local Bunnings and tried to find something that would be a good way to secure these onto the timber framework, but also fit nicely in that slot. They're not quite flat enough on the top, so I'm going to have to grind these down so that they'll lock in and slot into there. It'd be nice if this thing could be disassembled easily and then put into like a carry pack. So 4 of those neatly spaced, we're going to have, it's going to fit quite nicely on that piece of timber. So I guess I'll just go with drilling a hole up there and see how that works out, and then that'll give me the spacing to put these two. That drill bit looks like a good match. So yeah, I've got to flatten the head off that so it'll slide nicely into there. Slide in and lock in, and then I can use the wing nuts. So that fits quite nicely. It's still very hot from the grinding, so yeah. So 3 more to do. So there's 4 all ground up with flatter heads. just doing this to get my spacing right for the two middle ones. I'm not really fussy about how this is going to look, just so long as it works. So this is what you call eyeball engineering. If you want to do it really nice, you'd get the ruler out, but I'm just going to basically eyeball where things go and put a mark and drill and go for it. I want the switches on the bottom, so if you're working from the front you can just reach under, you'll know exactly where the switches are. Get some epoxy mixed up and put the switches on next. The reason I chose these particular lights is because they don't flicker at all. They are just resistors. There's probably a strip in there, or I don't know, I haven't pulled the thing apart to see what they look like inside, but yeah, there's no control gear. A lot of LEDs run with like some sort of driver. So this will be a real simple rig. There'll be 4 levels of light to turn on. You just turn them on and you can have more or less light. There won't be any you know, control driver that you can dial it down, and when you dial them down they start to create flicker because they use pulse width modulation to do that dimming. These are a real cheap and easy switch to get a hold of. So what I've done here is I've just cut close to the input where the wire comes into the body, just cut it and put the wire straight into the switch, and then I'll bring the wires up onto here, bring them all together to a point where one of these will be left hanging to plug it in. I'm going to split that out. There we go. Don't need to go too far, that should do it. Just tighten them up so they're nice and secure. Test that it's in good, yes. Okay, so they all have a switch. Now I'm going to use this epoxy putty. It's not a liquid. It's good stuff to work with. The product like this is you really need to get into it to work it into a like to mix the two epoxies. There's a hardeners in the middle of it. There you go. I got this stuff at Aldi. It's an American product. Made in USA. I've never used it before, but for any of the American viewers, you're probably more familiar with this Dynagrip brand than we are in Australia. In Australia we've got a product called Selleys Need It, which is very much the same sort of, same tube packaging, same style, same little silver thing on the top. This kind of product heats up when you mix it, so it gives you a good idea that it's starting to react. I couldn't find any gloves, so I'm just gonna bodge it together with this stuff. I usually like to twist and fold and roll and knead it together. It's looking like a pretty good consistency. You just don't want to see any different colours, you just want to see it all the same uniform colour. And now that it's heating up, it's actually starting to be more workable. So I'm just going to put a small blob on the back of each switch and squeeze it down onto the panel. It's like working with blue tack, only it sticks like mad. I'll give my hands a good wash after this, because this kind of stuff can create irritation problems. Whereby you get more and more, over time you develop an irritation to it. Looks good. Another good thing about using this sort of product is a really fast set. The downside of that is you've got to work quickly. But I like projects to happen quick, because The longer I stuff around with something, the more likely it is to become an unfinished project. Oh, might have taken too long there. Put a few scratches in it so it holds. No, goose is cooked. It's already gone. So, devise a plan to hold a tripod mount. I'm not sure if I've got any threads laying around, so it'd be nice to have something that can go right in the middle here so it can hang on its centre of gravity. This knockoff GoPro case, now the camera itself is stuffed, so I could put that into service. I'm thinking I'll just make up another blob of this stuff, because obviously I need it to put some of that, put that switch down, and I'll just gooby all of that together, drill another hole through the centre there, and bring one of those through, and yeah, should come together nicely. Change plan here, I just found this laying around. Check if the threads are the same as the okay, what can we do here? Maybe. He used to work for a bloke, and I remember him coming in telling me that he drilled a hole in his finger because he was hanging onto the backside as he went through the tin. I could only laugh. Fairly close to the bottom of the timber there. I might just go with 2 screws and then some epoxy. It's a good idea when you're working with this stuff to seal it back up and make sure you get all of the bits that are there. Make sure you get all that, because that's part of the ratio, the mixture ratio, to roll it back up. Put it in its little airtight container. Ah, stuff it. I wash my hands after dicking around with that stuff like that. It's getting a bit dark in here. One of those switches has fallen off already. Look at that. I really should have scratched the surfaces. Gives the adhesive something to stick to. Oh well, live and learn. While it's still a little bit soft, it should, yeah, you get peeled off quite easy. It might be a good idea to redo all of them. Yeah, look at that. No good. So I've given them a good scratching, and I actually think I'll go to liquid. Sets in 2 to 4 minutes. That stuff looks alright. Let's use that instead. If that's a plug or I've got to snap that off, or what I do here. Okay. Oh look, one side's not squeezing out. That's convenient. I'm going to get a good 2 to 1 ratio like that. Let's scrap that pile there and actually start again, because if you don't mix it right, you don't get the right ratio. That's better. A horrible smell, epoxy. Okay, so some of these are out of shot, but I'm just applying it to the back side of each switch. Okay, just got to do a little bit of soldering here to put these bits together. Alright, just throw a bit of heat shrink over that. So apart from adding some tape and some zip ties to tidy up how the wires sit, that's it. So there it is, all tripod mounted. Gee, it's bright. I'll zip tie all this stuff in place. So there's an example of the lighting with all four on. One off, two off, three, that's just one. It's a very nice light. There's two of the outer ones, but look at that, there's hardly any shadow at all. Very nice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate. That drill bit looks right. Are you going out of focus? Come on, focus. I usually like to twist and